All right, so what's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. This is part 2 of the review for Beloved. Before we turned this off the first time, it was because, I had to catch up on an English class. Sorry, guys, my schedule gets mixed up sometimes. But AKDI was saying that this review is cursed. Do you think Beloved is trying to stop us from talking about it?
I don't know if it's beloved, but it's something.
It's like an evil energy over this review.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the spirits of slaves who died and got raped and all of those things.
Yeah,
and they're saying leave us alone.
Yes, and here I am making jokes about it. Yeah, my ancestors are mad at me. But this is Simon and Acting Movie Reviews, episode 60, the 1998 film Beloved. Just picking up where we left off, we were discussing the part where Paul D was talking about his trauma on the plantation, and then he turns from talking about what he went through and then points at Beloved and is like, tell me your story. Where did you come from? How'd you get that dress? How'd you get those fancy shoes? And Beloved starts screaming and going off and I stole them. I took them. And then she throws up her food, and then Denver takes her out of the room. And then the next thing is that Sete sort of has a breakdown moment, and she reveals, she feels abandoned because her husband, Hallie, never got out of Sweet Farm, and she waited for him. And because she waited for Hallie to meet up with him when they were planning their escape, her and many other slaves, she ended up getting captured by the slave masters and then also raped. Paul D then reveals, Hallie didn't leave you. He was trapped. He was stuck up there. And he was in the barn, in the loft of the barn, watching it all happen. And then Sete is like, he saw that happen. He let those white men do that to me, and he let them keep on living. And then Paul D says, the last time I saw Hallie, all he kept saying was the loft, the loft, the loft. And it looked like his mind was gone and he had been totally broken inside. And Sete is just, totally heartbroken by that. What did you think about, that exchange right there?
Yeah, I think I thought sort of Sete was, making herself feel comfortable because she lost her husband, or at least she doesn't know if he's alive, if he's dead. She assumes he's dead, I guess. But she was saying to herself, I did everything I can. And sort of maybe putting some of the blame of, actually white people or the trauma to her husband. Mm-hmm. And also, I was thinking, this is what, Nazis do. This is what people who love war or who, fight for unjust reasons do. They destruct that family construct. Mm-hmm. And they separate it. So even in a situation like this, Sete is able to feel some sort of negative emotion towards her husband, even though he was going through slavery as well. Mm-hmm. So, it's such a strong mind-bending experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this film is the truest psychological horror film that I've ever seen, because that's textbook survivor's guilt, because Sete feels like I was the only one and she can't believe it. She really can't believe it. And on one hand, she can't believe it because, she's a woman. She was a pregnant woman at that. And she still sort of suffered getting caught, by the school teacher and his boys too. And she still suffered so much more, as we'll talk about later. But she's like, I'm the survivor. After everything I went through, it seems to crush her a bit. And Paul D sort of feels bad even telling her this, but it's sort of like the truth had to be told. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think Paul D is also trying to help Sete to overcome what she's been keeping in related to her trauma, escaping, because he always tells her you were pregnant too, how did you do it? You're amazing, things like that, sort of uplifting her. And not trying to remind her of Hallie, her husband, etc. So I think in all aspects, Paul D is really her, shoulder to cry on, and her person to vent.
Yeah. But moving on in the story, one of the weirdest designed bedrooms I've ever seen in a film. While Paul D and Sensei like are on the porch of the house, the camera pans up to like Denver's room upstairs, and it's like a dirty, dingy room lit with blue lights, and the girls are like playing like back and forth, Denver and Beloved. They're like, yeah, ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies, while they play like in a haunted mansion. It was so creepy. They fall down on the floor. And, Denver says, you're my sister. And, Beloved is like, maybe, I don't know. I came here for her. I came here for your mother. I don't need you, Denver. I love her more than I love anybody. Right. And then, Beloved asks Denver to tell her about her birth, right? Where she came from. And so then Denver tells the story that basically her mom was like running through the forest from the slave catchers from Tennessee trying to get to Ohio for days. And her feet were cut up and blistered and all that. And she had been just malnourished, and she eventually collapsed. And when she collapsed in a field somewhere, this white girl comes out of nowhere who looks like she's high off of the first batch of LSD. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I found an N-word right here. And she's like, I'm heading to Boston to go buy silk or lavender or something like that. I forgot. And she almost leaves Sete, who's pregnant, on the floor. But Sete's like, you not gonna help me? And so then the white girl like picks her up, helps her nurse her wounds and stuff like that. And, she then looks at Sete's back and sees like, it's a tree. And I guess this is the first person to tell Sete that her back does look like a tree, because maybe she couldn't see it beforehand. And so, basically, they make it to the Ohio River, this white girl named Amy Denver and Sete. And as they're about to get on a boat to cross the Ohio River, Sete goes into labor and gives birth to Denver underwater, with Amy Denver helping her, push the baby out. And so when the baby is finally out, Amy Denver says, tell her, that Amy Denver was the one to help her give her life, because I'll probably never see you again. And so then Sete looks at, her baby and says Denver. And that's how Denver got her name. Later on, this guy pulls up on a raft whose name is Stamp Paid. Stamp Paid is like a riverman. And he sees the baby, he sees Sete, and is like, shh, I'll help you get across. And that's how, Sete got her freedom on one hand into Ohio, and also how Denver was born. So what did you think of like that flashback scene?
Oh yeah, that was a crazy story. Like, it's a story of both, like, it's a bit heartwarming that, this white girl came in and she helped her, but I liked, like, how they didn't portray the white girl like a white savior. It was sort of like she was there and she helped her because she just couldn't let her, like, die with a baby inside of her, basically. But yeah, obviously, like, she was a good person, or she was on like mushrooms that she found in the forest or something. But yeah, that was definitely like a very, inspiring story of like how some of, people who are alive today are alive, because of these sorts of survival stories. And it was definitely very touching.
Yeah. It was hella weird. Like, Amy Denver has to be like one of the weirdest forest troll creatures of all time, because she literally pops on screen and she's hopping like a character out of Middle Earth. It's like the female Gollum. Did you not get those vibes?
Yeah, definitely. It was like she was with the flower power, like she was on Woodstock or something, and then she accidentally like took a time machine and came back to this forest.
I've never seen Midsummer, but I imagine Amy Denver is like the villain in that film. No?
Midsummer? You mean
Yeah.
Midsummer?
Yeah, Midsummer is how it's pronounced.
Oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the vibes she's giving, like evil troll woodland creature. Like, what the hell? And yeah, the use of the N-word by Amy Denver was just like, it's crazy, because Amy shows ultimate compassion by helping Sete give birth to her baby, but the entire time she never fully recognizes the pain that she is going through to some degree, right? She says, if they find you, they're just going to cut your head off, and I'm probably going to let them, something like that. She didn't say I'm probably going to let them, but that's what also she implied. And then when she looks at the scars on her back, she doesn't say, oh, that's horrific. She says, oh, it looks like a tree. Like, how do you look at somebody's, horrible scars and see that? So it's crazy because there was this double sort of compassion, but how can I say, non acknowledgement of her humanity. Do you get what I mean?
I disagree a little bit, like a tiny bit, like about the tree comment. I think the tree was a symbol throughout this movie, because we also see it later with baby Suggs. And I think the reason why she said, oh, this is a Cherokee tree or something like that, it was sort of saying, like, don't see this as a flaw or as, as I don't know, like as something bad, but see it like as hope. Like it looks beautiful like a tree. I felt that's what she was going for because she was already in so much pain. So saying like, oh my God, this is so awful. Like your back looks terrible. Instead of saying that, she sort of like redirected what she was thinking. And she knew what she was going through. Like she said that was crying there, but she was also realistic. Yeah. Like she said, when Sete couldn't walk anymore, she said, nobody's chasing me, but I know somebody's chasing you. So you better like get up and we have to move. So yeah, like at times she was insensitive, and sort of almost saw her like a little bit like an animal. Yes, I do agree on that. But there were times when she were trying to like console her, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to agree to disagree because I just feel like if you saw somebody with one arm, you wouldn't say, oh, wow, man, you got a more well-defined bicep. Like, come on, like somebody just got their leg blown off and you're like, oh, man, now you can, hop up the stairs faster. You can work out those calves on your left leg. Like, that's just wild for me to see somebody's slave scars and be like, oh, it looks like a tree. What?
I mean, she was a quirky person. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. And like 1 second she was like, when they first tried to get on that small boat, and when they reached Ohio, Sethe got on the boat, but then her water broke, right? And then, Amy Denver didn't understand this, so she was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, get in, like, we have to go. But then she saw Sethe was actually giving birth. And then she was like, oh, Jesus, help me. I need your help right now. So, like, it's like, hot and cold with Amy Denver.
Yeah, yeah. Well, moving on from that part, basically, Sete makes it into Ohio and she goes to Baby Suggs' house. Now, Baby Suggs is the mother of Hallie, who is her baby daddy, and he's also the man who was trying to escape from slavery, but Paul D told us that he couldn't escape because he was in the loft of the barn and he also saw when Sete got raped, right? So basically Sete is at her mother-in-law's house, kind of, and she sees all of her other children there as well, right, that she had with Hallie. So the two boys that we saw at the beginning of the film, they're babies. And then also she's holding baby Denver as well. And baby Suggs then pulls out 2 diamond earrings to give to Sete, like sort of like as a reward for Sete making it to the promised land, right? Now, I was a bit confused because I'm still unsure of where Beloved comes from. I'm still unsure about that. So is Beloved Denver's older sister? Was she already there?
Yeah, Beloved is the already crawling baby.
Ah, yes, already. I forgot about Already Crawling Baby. That was hilarious. Yes, Already Crawling Baby. That's just like an old black name. Already Crawling Baby. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, so basically, Beloved, or the other kid, was with the mother-in-law, and Denver was the baby who was born in the forest in the boat with Amy Denver.
Yes.
And she was already there. And yeah, basically we sort of see how, Sethe has her freedom at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she's like holding her babies and stuff. And also, I think here we have like more into baby Sugs, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, after this scene, there's an important scene where Sete goes out into the forest with Beloved in one arm and Denver in her other arm, and they're both grown. And, Denver, is still sort of like waiting on her father. She never got to know Hallie. Hallie never escaped. But, Sete takes both of them, the grown women, her grown daughters, to the forest, right? And, yeah, it tells Denver straight up, like, your father is not coming, right? Your father won't be here. He's never going to come. And Denver is actually, really sad about that. There's also a flashback scene of like baby Suggs. She was like a holy woman in the town. She would always preach to the people. So she would stand in the middle of the forest and invite all the children, all the men to come there, and all the women as well to come sing and dance and stuff like that. There's a lot to break down with that, but that's more for that part, I guess. You got any comments?
Yeah, so yeah, when it comes to like the scene with, I mean, should we break that down later with baby Sugs? Is that what you want to do?
It's whatever you want to do. Go ahead. Whatever you want to do.
I just like the first impression was sort of like this, activist old black lady, and she just wants like all of her children, and by children like all of the younger, black people who faced slavery or didn't face it. She just wants them to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then she also like is very good to Sethe as well because she understands. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just like loved her character.
Yeah, you cannot not like baby Suggs in this film. I just feel like we should explain this, that okay, we saw how Sete got free. She lost almost everything to get free. But baby Suggs got her freedom bought for by her son. So her son basically worked all her life to get her free. And so I feel like I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but baby Suggs is kind of like spoiled. She can stand in the middle of the forest and say, hey, everybody, just smile, be happy. Because low key, she kind of got out the easy way. I'm going to keep it a buck. I don't know. Am I tripping?
How is it getting off the easy way when once you retire, like you're 60 from slavery? Like she did 60 years of slavery and then her son finally got her out. Now she's spoiled.
I'm just saying, low key. I mean, it's better than, dying with your back bent over, fingers all wrinkled up, coughing your lungs out in the cabin until master just puts a bullet in your head. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, yes, of course, she had it better than most, like, black people back then, especially older ones. And Hallie, her son, made, like, a great sacrifice. Because
mhm,
honestly, like, who wouldn't want to get out of that situation?
yeah.
But, he got her out. So in that sense, like, yes, she's lucky, of course, but she also, I think she has a lot of like a philosophical side to her.
Mhm.
Like she thought about things and she didn't take anything to heart, and she's still proud of like herself and being a black person.
No, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real. Baby Suggs represents like the spirit of determination, of overcoming things and keeping true to some values, some morality, some humanness in a world that seeks to break us and degrade us and animalize us, right? So that's what she represents in her speech and in her just existence on screen, right? But I was just thinking about this, like, think how crazy it would be. Like, why did white people even honor the idea of black people buying their freedom? Think about that. Like, out of all the crazy things they could have done, they could have been like, all right, you worked 30 years of your life to buy your mama's freedom. I don't want to do it no more, but I'll take your money though. Like, think about that. I would have been so pissed.
Well, I mean, but it's almost like a sick joke.
hmm
Like I'm sure Hallie had to work like 10 years to buy her mom's freedom.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna give you like 1 penny for each week that you work, and her freedom is like $100.
Mm.
And it's like, so it's sort of like a sick joke on
Yeah.
them, definitely.
Damn. But what is
Like
that, a penny?
an old woman like already cannot work that well and it cannot work
Yeah.
that much. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, after that scene, basically Sete runs to the house and leaves her daughter in the forest, leaves her daughters in the forest after telling Denver, your father, Hallie, he's never coming. He won't be back. And so then she runs into the house and finds Paul D taking a bath in a small little tub. And Paul D says, "Hey, baby, you want to get in?"
That was hilarious. That was
Yes.
so hilarious.
There's a little bit of comic relief in this film. I ain't gonna lie. So, and that was a pretty funny scene. And so then, Sete and Paul D, start to get frisky in the kitchen because anytime Sete has like a traumatic event, she needs some dick. She needs some act right. She needs her back blown out. Like, what is, once again, this film is, I love how they use sex as a form of healing, but damn, they were having sex more than like two kids. They were having sex more than when me and my wife first met, like crazy. It was just all over the place, all over the house. Like they were acting like they were having sex like the way like Denver didn't exist. They were having sex like this was a bachelor pad. Like
Yeah, they were having like sex for every meal.
yes, like it was crazy. Like, oh my God, it was funny. It was funny as hell. So while they're, fooling around in the kitchen and Sete is like, oh no, Paul D, stop. Oh, Paul, stop, stop. Sete hears the door open and she's like, Denver, is that you? And she's like, stop it, Paul D. But it's actually Beloved who entered the house, right? And she hears this sound and she's sort of like kind of disgusted. So she like runs away back into the forest and meets up with Denver. And then they look at two turtles in the river and they begin to have sex. And then we see Beloved roll her neck back and we see a big scar under her neck. Now, once again, this film is weird. Like, it's a weird ass film. Like, the turtle scene was hella weird. What did you think about all of that?
Oh yeah, it's definitely like kind of obvious here that Sete does use like sexual relief in terms of like just relieving herself off of pain in that moment. And it's like an escape for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Paul D uses sex as like having like a normal family, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
he's a guy who went through slavery and then he ended up like just walking constantly and going
Mm-hmm.
from town to town. So he never had that family. And I think that's what like Paul D is taking out of it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the turtle scene,
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely weird. It was like a National Geographic scene.
Mm-hmm.
And like the turtles looked like just very human also.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like the lady turtle was like, looking back at it and shit. So I thought maybe it represented some sort of like coming of age feeling. But I don't know for who, like, because Denver didn't hear like that, but I'm sure she heard it somehow, somewhere, because they were having sex constantly, right?
Yeah, all throughout the house.
Yeah, maybe it represented like Beloved being like
Mm-hmm.
her age to maybe have sex or be interested in her sexuality, but as a mental age, she's not that there.
Okay, yeah, a little bit. Now, something that I feel like this film touches on or hints at that doesn't even have to do with race or slavery or anything, I feel like it's the underlying fear that it exists in the house when there's a man there living with a woman he's either married to or in a relationship with, and a woman or girl, whatever, who is there, who is not blood related, also in that same house with that man. You get what I'm saying? And let's keep it real, like, Denver looks okay. Beloved actually looks okay too, right? So there is that sort of, not sexual tension, but like that sexual, how can I say, questioning. Like what could happen? What could actually transpire in this situation? You get what I'm saying? Who might try to make a move on who? And I feel like this film hints at that underlying current. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely, that's like something very real, especially like in the older times. But even now, like I remember my mom saying like, don't wear this in front of your uncle, in front of your stepdad, etc. like whenever there was a grown man in our house, you know, you don't know what they're thinking and stuff like that. Or if we went to like go sleep at, you know, one of our relatives and there's a guy, like she would always lock the door and stuff. Like even though that these are people we are really close to and we never think of anything happening like that, but it's just like she's taking like precaution.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, she's afraid of men's nature or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely
Exactly.
like that idea. But I also have a thought about the turtle scene.
Go ahead.
Because they showed it right after, like, you know, Sethe and Paul D trying to, you know, get close. And there's always that comparison in the movie whenever, like, there's white people around. There's that comparison of animals with black people, and they showed it right after that. So do you think there was, like, a connection between that? But the animal here is turtle. Like, it's not a lion, it's not a monkey, it's nothing
Right.
like that.
I feel like, how can I say this? I felt like the turtle thing being there, right? Like, okay, Beloved is actually, and I don't mean this in a negative way because, you know, she's black, but I mean like, she is actually part animal because the first time we actually see her is a butterfly. And you notice this when you watch the movie on replay. And then fast forward, spoiler alert, she turns into butterflies at the end. Right? So I think that Beloved has like some connection with nature to some degree where like something will happen in nature that is a part of like symbolizing what she is experiencing or feeling and stuff like that. Like she has supernatural powers and maybe also the supernatural world works on her to send her a message. That's how I'm viewing that. I didn't view that as like the story like connecting Sete and Paul D as animals. That's not how I saw it.
I mean, I just thought of that now, but maybe if it is like that, I'm thinking there was like a connection between animal and humans and not necessarily black people and animals. Because at the end of the day, animals also have this feeling of reproduction, right? And that is something in all humans, like we want to reproduce. And it was showing that sort of, you know, natural instincts of people, of sexes.
Yeah, definitely. But once again, like the sexual tension in this house is so real that, you know, I think the turtles are like, you're going to see sex everywhere in this environment because, you know, Paul D is not related to any of these women. He's in a house with two very young women and a woman that he's actively having sex with. So, you know, there's that energy throughout the house, maybe. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
So basically after, you know, Beloved discovers that her mother, Sete, is actually, you know, more attracted to this man and focused on this man than actually being with her, Beloved actually starts to get pissed a little bit. And so she stares down Paul D at dinner after they eat, and Paul D ends up falling asleep in his rocking chair. And the next morning, you know, Sete wakes him up and says, "You're going to be late for work and let me make you some breakfast." And Paul D says, "Breakfast can wait." They go have sex. The next day, you know, Paul D is like having sex with, Sete, and like he wakes up in the wrong bed and Sete's like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, "I don't know. It's like there's some type of spell or magic over me or something like that." And then, you know, one day he's like, you know, sleeping in bed with Sete and he just feels cold for some reason. So then he runs out of the bedroom and goes into the shed in the back. And when he goes into the shed, Beloved follows him in there, and Beloved then opens up her dress, shows her very bushy, vagina and pubic area, and says, "I want you to touch me on the inside and call my name." And Paul D is like, "Get back, demon. Go away from me." But she keeps on saying, "Touch me on the inside and call my name." And she gets on top of Paul D and basically seduces him. And then the, you know, shed starts to turn red. And then Paul D starts, you know, humping on Beloved and saying, "Red heart, red heart, red heart," every time he strokes. And the room gets red. And Denver, I believe, hears this and hears Paul D crying in the shed. And there's just a scene also of Sete sort of sleeping, unaware of what's going on. So what did you think about, all of that?
Once again, this movie's crazy. Like, at first when, Beloved was trying to cast spells on Paul D, when he fell asleep in that chair, I thought she killed him. But then, like, he woke up and stuff. And when, like, everything that happened in the shack, I was so confused about what to feel. Because I was like, did she just rape him? Or did she took over his mind? Like, what the hell is happening? And there was definitely, I think, use of evil and spirits and whatever, because we saw that, like, red lights, and Paul D was sort of, like, hypnotized when he was saying red heart, red heart. And, I think, once again, it's connected to that, like, human instinct of certain things and just, like, raw emotions as well. What did you think?
Yeah, like watching that scene, that was one of the most moving scenes because it's very hard to make male rape believable on screen because people just believe males, it's impossible for them to get raped by women. And I feel like, that scene was done in a way because it was done in a shed and then you hear Paul D crying outside. It just reminded me of like, the breeding farms when they would force a black man to just be in the farm and have sex with whatever woman they put in there to just reproduce the slaves, right? As if we're commodities, right? And I'm just imagining, how that broke so many men, just to be used as sexual objects that way. And that's what I was thinking of Paul D. And I was thinking maybe he might have been a breeder in his past life when he was a slave. And maybe that's why he kept saying Red Heart, because maybe that was his, slave name or something, or his breeding name. Who knows?
Yeah. And also, we talked about this a little, like, before, but there was also, like, that pressure, or at least just sort of, like, brainwashing of, like, white women in the house being afraid of the black men. And, like, seeing them as savages and, like, sexual savages, basically, that would just, like, go at anything. And I think there was also, like, a pressure for, black men in these houses. They constantly had to hide their love. Like, even if they had a relationship with one of the black women, it wasn't really allowed to have relationships like that out in the open and enjoying yourself, like, romantically. And I think, like, also Paul D probably suppressed his, manliness, I guess, or his sexual feelings as a man.
Do you think he repressed his love for Sete at the farm because Hallie loved her? And then, he's finally got the girl he always wanted, but now he's heartbroken because he maybe just messed it up because he had sex with her daughter?
I'm not sure because when they first meet, they do seem very friendly. They did seem very friendly, but I don't know. I don't think, like, he was trying to take Sete or anything. Maybe I think he was happy that, there was a couple and they did, like, get pregnant and stuff like that. And yeah, like, when you're in slavery, I don't think you have time to think about those things, but I don't know.
I disagree. Paul D was that guy in the friend zone. Imagine being in the friend zone on a slave plantation. That's got to be the worst life to live. How are you in the friend zone while you're also in the cotton fields? Like, bruh.
Wow. That sounds like really bad. But I mean, maybe.
God, she keep on giving me the side hug in chains.
Oh
we
Stop.
we in chains, and she keep calling me her bestie. Stop it.
Wow. That's hilarious.
She's like, stop playing. You like my brother, bitch.
Wow. But I just think, like, there was that suppression of, like, sexuality for Paul D as well. Whether it was towards Sete or any other, like, woman that he liked. Or just, like, having normal emotions, because most men go into working in the fields and stuff like that. Most black men, like, being teenagers. And when you're a teenager, you have a lot of, like, sexual feelings, right? And you never really get to live your childhood in that way. And it's always suppressed or abused. So, yeah, there was definitely, like, that sort of hinting for me, at least.
Yeah, I just got the feeling that, Paul D was heartbroken for many reasons, right? Like, because he tried to be a good man. He was really trying to be a good man, but a spell went over him, right? And he couldn't control it, right? And that probably brought him back to when he was actually in bondage, right? And a man who's a slave to his sexuality is never truly free. And that's why Paul D probably really broke down, because he's like, I want to be able to do what I want and be who I want and finally have control over myself. And the thing is, for the black man, we've never had true freedom with our sexuality. And so Paul D, gets to experience freedom and feels like he's free with his sexuality because he's choosing to be monogamous with this one woman, but he's taken back to a time when they would literally tell the black man, go have sex, do it now, and do it right. You get what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I truly think Paul D was a really good man. Like, he never mistreated, Sethe.
And tried to
And
be nice to her daughter, too. Good
yeah,
stepdad. That's
yeah,
why he was in the friend zone, because she was like, you're a good stepdaddy.
I want a bad boy.
Hallie was the bad boy on the plantation.
Wow. Your ancestors are coming for us, Simon.
I know, I'm tripping.
Anyway, let's continue with the story.
All right. Anyway, Paul D, he goes into town one day to, pick up Sete from work, and he's just got all these things on his mind. So he's practicing. Sete, I got to tell you something. I don't know exactly what to say, but Sete comes up behind him and says, Paul D, you came up here to meet me after work? Aw. And he's like, yeah, cause I got something to tell you. I want you pregnant. He doesn't have the heart. That was actually kind of cute, low key. Like, he didn't have the heart to tell the truth. So he just like, you know what? I'm just going to try to save whatever's left of this relationship, and maybe the baby will keep her. So he tells, Sete, I want you pregnant. I want to start a family with you. And she's like, boy, stop playing. You crazy. You like a brother to me. Please. Acty, help me. I can't stop.
Stop. Anyway, I mean, yeah, they're going back home, like, they're giggling, and Paul D's like grabbing her ass on the way, and yeah, I mean, they were so cute. I didn't even want him to like tell the truth, honestly, because they were just so cute together.
Right. But then the next day, Paul D is at his job getting crunk. Like, I's free. I'm a free man, and I'm going to have free kids, and we going to do whatever the hell we want. But, the other guys he works with, one of them being Stamp Paid, the same riverboat man that saved Sete, says, really? You a free man? Well, as long as it's a white man's world, we're never going to be free. And I was like, damn, that's hard. That sounds like Simon Hill keeps it trill. And so Stamp Paid pulls, Paul D to the side and says, Paul D, you can't read, can you? And Paul D is like, honest, he doesn't know how to read. He never learned how to read, but Stamp Paid does. And Stamp Paid pulls out a newspaper clipping that has a drawing of a woman that looks like Sete. And so he begins to read to Paul D what it says. Paul D then goes home to Sete and he pulls out the news clipping to her. And then Sete says, come on in. I'm going to tell you the story. I got nothing to hide. So Sete says, a few years ago, when she was, at the farm in Baby Sug's house, living with her kids, her two boys, already crawling baby, and Denver, she's out in the fields tending to things, and then, a few white men pull up on horseback, and she starts screaming. She gets really terrified. And the way that they were able to find where Sete, who was an escaped slave, right? Because the main story takes place in 1865, but she had been an escaped slave before the end of the Civil War. So they went into Ohio looking for her, and they found her because other black people pointed them out, right? By gunpoint. And so, Sete like runs, grabs all of her kids, runs into the shed, and then when the white folks, burst in, Stamp Paid is in there, and Stamp Paid grabs the baby that Sete was about to slam down. And then they look to the side and they see that her two boys had been like hit over the head with a shovel, and that she was holding a baby in her arms that had its throat slit next to her breast. And she was just breathing hard. And the white people walk in and they're like totally disgusted. They're shocked. They're appalled. And, they say, well, there's nothing to save here. Looks like there's nothing to collect. And so then they sort of leave. And then the main slave catcher guy, who looked like Colonel Sanders, says to Sete, animal, and then spits on the ground. And so they sort of like let her go. They let her go because like she killed the babies, which is the most valuable thing, right? Like they don't actually want her. They want her because she has property that belonged to them, which are her children, right? And so Baby Suggs is like, oh my God. She goes to the two boys, and the two boys are actually alive, but, they have been severely hurt in the head. Denver is the baby that Stampede grabbed. And, the one that she killed was Beloved, or Already Crawling Baby. So, yeah, what did you think about that scene?
Oh my God. Yeah, this scene was definitely very, very like heart-wrenching. And this is the scene where I almost cried because there's that moment where, the white men leave the shack and you see like just Sete and the other guy, I forgot his name. The other guy just like look at each other, and the other guy is sort of giving that look where he's like, I understand you, but what did you do? Like, why did you do this? And Sete is just like looking at him like, I didn't have any choice. Like, I'm dead right now. Like, I feel like I'm dead, but I didn't have any choice. So it was just like so there, like emotions were there, and the story is crazy. It's like the saddest thing I've seen as well. And, the trauma is there because she didn't even wait to hear them. And this was actually not like a few years ago, but in the beginning she said, I only had 23 free days or something. So this was actually like 20 days, 20 something days after she was free. So like that trauma is super fresh. And, that was just insane to me. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, a lot can be broken down with this scene. Like, we could literally just talk about this for hours. I'll just get off some real quick ideas. Number one, it automatically made me think about many other slaves who committed suicide explicitly, like jumping off of the slave ships. That was a very common thing all throughout the centuries of us being transplanted across the Atlantic. Another thing it made me think of was like in America, we hear these stories quite often of mothers killing their kids. And you and I were sitting at the kitchen table the other day. All I did was type in mom kills kids USA. And there were like 20 different stories like that. And, we hear those stories and we say those mothers are animals. They're crazy. How could they be so insane? How could they be so wicked? But this film makes us actually sympathize with somebody who can do the unthinkable. And I think that's, brilliant in storytelling, brilliant in cinema. And it was very hard to pull off that scene because after that scene, we don't look at Sete like a villain, right? Because we saw how horrible Sweet Home can be. And what mother would want their children actually going into that sort of slavery, like that sort of wickedness, that sort of depravity, right? Like, and I think I asked you straight up the question, like, if you knew that you were going to go to Sweet Home, to a slave plantation, and your children would have to go through slavery for the rest of their lives, then their children as well, would you kill them? Right? Like, I don't know. It's like a hard question for me to ask myself, but I would honestly say I would. I honestly would say I would, like, unless we're going to kill Massa too, like, let's all just crash out and burn because this is not worth living. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question either, like, because yeah, I would like, what if just something comes over me and yeah, I kill my children because I don't want them to go through the same horrible things that I went through, because then, yeah, you're just like, what? You're bringing children into this world to suffer? Like, it's nothing that any mother wants. And, well, actually, when I was watching this scene, I also thought, like, I remembered asking you, would you bring a child to this world? Like, do you want to have kids and stuff like that? And, I remember like sometimes, or at least one time, you saying like, I don't know if I want to bring a black child into this world because I know how much I suffer from being black in this world. And I don't know if I want them to suffer the same way. And it just like reminded me of that. It made me sad that you have to question the same things that Margaret Garner questioned in 18,000s. It's
Hmm.
not the same level, yes, but it's still the same question, you know?
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
because like yeah, like our existence is constantly under attack. We're under threat. We cannot, live full human lives because we're not viewed as full people. So the question of our existence also extends to our children as well. Like, do you, knowing that your children will go through hell, would you even want them to be born? Right? And yeah, it's a deep ass question. The other thing that I want to say is that the actress who played young Sete in that scene nailed it. Her name is Lisa Gay Hamilton, and it's once again a shame that the only person who got nominated for an Oscar was the white woman who designed the costumes for this film. Somebody get my gun. Somebody get my gun. I'm going to the Oscars. I'm slapping everybody. Will Smith and me are walking in there slapping everybody. How did she not get nominated for that scene? Such a dope ass scene. Seriously, she brought it to life.
yeah. I mean, yeah, even Amy Denver deserves more than the other girl, the other white lady who got nominated. I can't even talk because I'm mad.
Okay, but yeah, such a powerful scene, and yeah, I really also one more thing I got to say about the scene where she kills her kids. It comes right after Paul D was at the job talking about I'm free and I'm gonna stay free and my kids gonna be free and all this sort of stuff, right? But then we see Sete and she's like, yeah, I mean that. I ain't gotta scream it because she'll do whatever to stay free. And some people might look at her killing her kids as like selfish in a way. Like some people might say she didn't really do that to, protect her kids. She did that to protect herself because she knew that the people really just wanted her kids. So break that and then they won't even mess with you no more. What do you think about that theory?
I mean, I think, yeah, like she was affected by her trauma, but I don't think you can separate the two of like doing it for yourself, but also doing it for your children, because as a mom, your whole life becomes your children. So it's like you don't really do anything not thinking about your children.
Right.
And it does become like toxic a little bit. And I also wanted to say this, like, whenever, Paul D and Sete talk about love and kids and family, Paul D always says to Sete, like, you love too much. You love too hard. You have to let certain things go if you love them. They always sort of had this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And Sete is always like, loving lightly is not loving. If you're not loving like 100% enough to like kill those people and yourself, because that was initially her plan as well. She was going to commit suicide
Mm-hmm.
after like she killed her children.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like Sete is like 100 on it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly, but
Yeah, it's like the same question, like if your mother is on life support, do you love her more if you keep her on it or if you let her go? Right? That's like the type of question it means. Like, what does it really mean to love? To let somebody, to try to save somebody's life no matter what, or to ease their pain and suffering? And
yeah.
those are big questions, right? But I would still say that maybe people who would watch this film and say, Sete really didn't do that to save the kids, right? Because she could have found a way to escape again, right? There's always hope and a way to escape, right? Plus the Civil War was happening around that time, possibly, right? If I remember right. So yeah, maybe she could have, waited out the Civil War. The North might have won or something like that, possibly. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm,
some people might be like, yeah, killing your kids, girl, you overdid it. You went too hard. You went too far.
yeah, but it wasn't just that. Like for Sethe, I think it was a moment of crisis. At that time, she didn't think reasonably because, a person who thinks reasonably maybe would still do it or maybe not, but
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely like sort of a catharsis for her. Like she
Mm-hmm.
just went crazy, screaming and, she just, I think, had like the whole flashback of her whole slavery years.
Yeah.
And this woman was only 20 days free.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like it wasn't about like being sensible at that moment.
Right, right, right. But, one more thing I just got to say, that's such a great scene. And I love how it comes after, Paul D talking about I'm free, but Sete, says freedom has a cost. And once again, Paul D didn't really fight for freedom. Yeah, he tried to escape, but then he didn't, make it out, and he just waited slavery out, really. So, I think there's a different conception of freedom for everybody in this film, and I think that's one of the biggest themes through it, right? And Setse's freedom is at the hands of blood. Like, the only way you'll get free is through shedding blood through your feet by running through the fields for 40 days, 40 nights, the blood of your children, the blood of yourself, right? Like, that's freedom. But Paul D's freedom might just be patience and time, right? And, Baby Suge's freedom is like through God, right? Through something else. And Beloved's freedom might be like the love of a mother that she never had. So I don't know. That's what I'm feeling right now, talking about all this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Everyone has different definitions, and yeah, for Sethe, it's definitely like, I think for Sethe, it's, giving her children the freedom in terms of like her children knows freedom and don't know slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was her goal. And I think for Beloved, it was like the option of not being killed a little bit, because later we do like her see or hear her question certain things with Sethe and getting mad at Sethe.
Right. Now, there's some people that might say this is an anti-abortion film. What do you think about that?
Anti-abortion film?
Yes, because Beloved, is basically an aborted baby to some degree, right? And she comes back to basically haunt her mother. What do you think about that?
I don't think Beloved was aborted, like.
To some, like, not as in like, she had the whole suction and sucked it out and blended it up. No, but
Ew.
it was, but it was to some degree like a mother choosing to kill her child to not have her child suffer, right? Which is the same thing as abortion. So somebody would say, well, Beloved was a child who didn't have the choice to not live. So because of Sete's choice, Beloved is now haunting her, basically causing her to fail in her relationships, fail in her community, have her own children run away from her. What do you think?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's related to this movie. Like, I don't think it's one of the themes or something to get out of this movie in that sense.
I'll tell you who thinks that. Kimberly Elise, the girl who plays Denver, because when when Roe v. Wade was overturned in America, basically when, the Christian nationalists said, yep, you bitches gotta have babies now. She said, yay, hallelujah, praise Jesus. She posted that on Instagram.
Well, I'm a bit disappointed now. But I just don't, I did not see it that way. And even when you explain it and say it, I just cannot make the connection, because I feel like this situation is too extreme to assume that.
Right. But I think it still is on the same plane of a reason and logic, because people that say abortions need to be legal, they'll say, listen, there are some women who are not ready to have kids or can't take care of kids, or they're bringing kids into a worse situation than their parents, right? So give women the choice not to allow their children to suffer. So Sete took that choice in her hands, and she suffered the consequences of it. Now you might say it's qualitatively different because those children were alive, but it's still fundamentally the same in principle.
Well, if I'm going to find one common thing about, those things in the movie and in real life, then I would say like the common thing is you shouldn't really look if the fault isn't not the abortion itself, the fault is in something else, a system. And in the movie's case, it's white supremacy, it's slavery, right? Mm-hmm. If there wasn't slavery, then, Sethe would have never aborted her child. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to like real life, if people had better like financial situations, better healthcare, better certain things, then not as many people would need abortion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the common thing I can think about. So yeah, and
I got
that's
you.
in that case, I would say this movie is pro-abortion
Okay. Okay,
because
all right.
I just see it that way.
I got you. I got you. I got you. Okay, okay. Well, basically, Paul D, when he finds this out, he says, I'm gonna be right back. Just hold dinner for me. And then Sete says one of the coldest lines in the film. She says, after what I just told you about my life, you think you saying goodbye to me is gonna break me? I said, bitch, you a monster. You a G. Straight gangster. Oh, that
Are
was
you
good.
okay?
Yes, that was just too good. That was too good,
It
no?
was.
Yeah. But that's also the scene when she basically finds out that Beloved is her baby because, Beloved sits down in front of Sete and shows her her neck and she sees the scar. And that's when she realizes that Beloved is actually, who she, kind of, I would say, knew she was. But this is the thing about this film. I feel like the major plot hole is that how could Sete not know that this was her daughter to some degree? Maybe she didn't believe in any sort of like spirituality. Maybe she didn't believe in the possibility of that happening because it is a supernatural event taking place in a very realistic story. But, you
She had a
know,
freaking ghost in her house.
yeah, like, how could she not think? Like, why did it take her looking at the neck to figure that out? Like, it's one of the most obvious things in front of her.
I mean, I think the first time she realized it was because Beloved was humming the song that she made up and she only
Hmm.
sang it to her kids. And
Hmm.
then she also saw her neck and then she was like, oh wow.
Hmm.
But yeah, it coincided with Paul D's, departure
Hmm.
because I think Sete was too busy with Paul D.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think also like Paul D leaving created another trauma a little bit, even though she said it wouldn't hurt her.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, obviously, I think it did because
Yeah.
Paul D was that escape for her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Paul D leaves, but then, when Sete finds out that Beloved is her daughter for real, like she transforms into a totally different person. And this is when Sete moves from the love of a man to the love that she has for her daughter. And she goes all out for her daughter. She, finds money under the mattress, money that she's been keeping stashed up all of these years. And, she, misses work like one day, like she's an hour late for work for the first time in 16 years. And her boss fires her in winter again. And, she doesn't even care. She then runs to the store. And when she enters the store, people are shocked that she's there because I guess she hasn't even shown her face outside of her home for years. And so she's shopping all around and she buys ribbons, she buys cakes, she buys sweets, and she goes back to her house and the girls make dolls, they make dresses, and they prance around Denver, Beloved, Sete, and they're like having a good old jolly time. And then, Sete goes all out and spends even her last few coins on buying a doll for Beloved. And then, we think everything is great, but then Beloved actually confronts Sete, is like, why did you do this to me? Why did you, leave me? Why did you, terminate me? And then she starts screaming and going crazy, and basically Beloved switches from being in love with her mother to, being angry with her, and the anger just doesn't stop. And she keeps on asking for sweets. What did you think about all of that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, Sete was definitely holding on to this thought of like, yeah, my daughter is back. Like, I didn't kill her. Everything is fine now. And, that's why, like, she didn't care about anything else in the world. And she just wanted to be like in that room with Beloved. And also she was like, ignoring Denver a little bit as well. And here Denver was like, more jealous than before, I think. But I do also think Denver wanted her mother's like happiness or health as well.
Mm.
And yeah, like Beloved confronting her, that was just sort of like very deep. for Sethe, because she had to, like, she had that guilt as well. Not only survival's guilt, but also guilt of, like, you know, killing her baby. And the town sort of, like, ostracizing her for it, and everybody else ostracizing her, Paul D leaving her for it. So it was definitely like that confrontation in her mind as well. And she just didn't want to do any other harm to Beloved anymore. So she was just, like, you know, under her all the time.
Yeah. My thing about all of that, it was interesting to see the changes and phases that Sete goes through, because the way she acts with Paul D is, you know, yeah, she likes him, she loves him, but I like how the film shows, like, the love a mother has is above and beyond, because when Paul D was around, we didn't know that Sete was actually balling. Like, Paul D was like, I got $2. Sete is like, I got 20. But she didn't say that. You know what I mean? But she pulled out the 20 out of nowhere from all of that hard work she did over the years. And, yeah, she spent all of that in a day for her kids because she loved her kids that much. And even when Beloved, you know, turns up on her, like, you know, why did you do this to me? I hate you, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, Sete says, I understand. Like, I know where you're coming from. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I like how the film shows the mother's love is, like, one of the greatest loves that ever exists.
Yeah. And there was definitely, like, I get it in this sense, if we're talking about anti-abortion again, because there was definitely that sense of missed childhood in Beloved's demeanor, because she was like, I want sweets. And then we see her just, like, scooping jam with her hands and eating it. So, yeah, there was that as well.
Yeah. And so basically, after, you know, Beloved just turns up on her mother, you know, she is not the same. Like, there's no going back now. And Denver is like, you know, what happened? Like, we were all good, but now she's just like, everybody hates Beloved. Like, Denver is like, don't tear up Mother's, Baby Shugs' quilt, and Beloved just rips it in half and doesn't care, and, like, pisses on the floor as she leaves or something. And, like, you know, Sete has no more money. She doesn't have a job. The house is dirty. They don't have food. And all Sete can try to do is, like, continually try to appease Beloved, who just starts screaming and groaning throughout the house and stuff like that. And, yeah, that was actually hard to watch. That was actually really hard to watch, to see, you know, Beloved have everything that she worked so hard for sort of torn away from her, from the ghost of her past. And it made me think, like, you know, karma comes back around, you know, like what she tried to do to get free ultimately didn't work to some degree. What did you think about any of that?
What Sethe tried to do to get free?
Yeah, like the whole scene when basically, you know, the party's over and the next day, Sete is like confronted with the fact that Beloved is now permanently angry, permanently pissed off, and she's petulant.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in a way she has to deal with her demons herself. If she's constantly trying to redeem herself for what she did, you know, she's never going to win, and she's going to always feel like a loser when faced with Beloved. And yeah, there was like that intense guilt, and I agree with you. It was hard when, you know, we saw the scene where Sethe is going through the house, and the house is a mess. It looks like abandoned, and there's like no flour, no sugar, nothing. And yeah, in these scenes, Beloved is just like a baby. Even her screaming is like a crying baby.
Now, let me ask you this, because this is my one issue with the movie. I feel like this film would have been better served had Beloved not had this crazy screw face, like this crazy, almost carnival-esque demeanor. Like, of course, in the beginning it would have been cool, but it would have been more fulfilling if she was like more just cold, calculated, like emotionless, rather than just spastic. What do you think?
I mean, I thought there was some change in her throughout the movie. Like in the beginning, she was more like spastic, I guess. And then towards the middle, she was more normal, even though she still made like some quirky faces when she got angry. And then towards the end, she went crazy again. So I thought that was suitable, actually. I didn't think that was like unnecessary, because even though it made me feel very uncomfortable watching it, and yeah, but I thought that's what it was supposed to be like, because she doesn't belong in that world, and she's basically like a zombie. So it sort of made sense for me, and I wasn't disturbed by it, because like her being that frantic also hinted at Sethe's trauma. Her trauma wasn't cold and, cold in her head. I think she questioned herself every single day. Like, did I do the right thing? I killed my baby. I killed my baby,
I think, on one hand, it's like, you know, like Beloved acting that way sort of represents like the mother's bad choices coming home to roost. And like, because Beloved never got the chance to grow up, she's permanently stunted. And so that's the curse that is affecting Sete. Like, you're going to have to always take care of your child because you never let this child grow old enough to take care of you to some degree. And there's also another thing I feel like I don't think the movie is trying to say that to us, but I feel like as time has gone on, this movie could like represent that, if you have a person in your family who's like a mentally handicapped person, that person can sort of be like a detriment to your family, right? And that they're more like a curse on your family. And I'm not saying that's what I believe, but I feel like people could watch this film and be like, yeah, children don't come back to life reincarnated, right? But there are people out there with cerebral palsy who are severely autistic, and they could, ruin your life. Like, you could have a brother who wakes up at 4 a.m. and just starts screaming in the house, and that might cause pain for you. You tell him don't rip up grandma's picture, and he rips it up, and he doesn't care because he doesn't understand this. Like, that's what I feel like people might walk away with from the film because of the acting of Beloved. Do you feel where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I get it, but even though Beloved is like that, we do see the unconditional love, like, her family gives her mom, especially towards the end, and even Denver, like, in the beginning and in the middle. So I think Denver sort of grows cold to Beloved because she sort of feels like maybe Beloved is taking advantage of her mom. So yeah, but I think we can still see that, like, that love given to her. So yeah, I understand it, but I just thought it was sort of like okay that she was like that.
Yeah. Well, moving on from this, basically, young Denver gets greeted by the ghost of Baby Shugs, right? Which goes to show maybe in this film there are evil ghosts, but there are also good ghosts, right? Grandma ghosts, if you will. And so Baby Shug says, Denver, don't be afraid. I told you about, what would happen and what could happen. Says, be brave and go out there and do it on your own. So Denver gets all dressed up. She's about to cry, but she's facing the world with her brave face. And, she goes to a woman that she used to know who used to teach her how to read back in the day. But she's like, I just want to work if you have anything extra. And the woman's like, extra money? And Denver's like, extra food. And so the woman is just shocked that, that Denver's situation is that bad. And so, people in the community start sending food to the house of, Sete, where Denver lives with Beloved and all that stuff. And so Denver's, goes to Cincinnati to try to get a job. And she meets an old family friend, and the family friend is like suggesting the job, but Denver breaks down in tears and tells the older woman exactly what happened. And so the next scene is like a council full of like black women sitting around like, I can't believe it. It's crazy. What a shame. And so they're discussing the fact that, Denver told them that Sete's baby, that the whole community knew that she killed to get free, had come back to life and is now in the house causing hell on earth. And so, they're plotting what to do. And basically one of the last scenes of the film is that, Beloved is in the house screaming and moaning in the hot summer. Sete is like in a rocking chair. She can barely, she's like picking at ice. She's cracking some ice with an ice pick, and Denver's trying to like talk to her, like I'm about to leave, but Sete just keeps on hacking at the ice pick because it's summer and it's really hot. And so, the black women all congregate outside of the house. They're holding their Bibles, they're holding their crosses, screaming, Jesus, Jesus, save this woman, save this house, and stuff like that. Denver comes outside and sees the women there. What's her name? Sete hears the women singing gospel songs and praising Jesus, and she's like, no, it can't be, or something like that. And then she grabs Beloved by the hand and goes out on the porch, and, it's revealed that Beloved is actually pregnant, like very, very pregnant. And the people are shocked to see this. And also at the same time that the black women are there, Sete sees a white man on top of a coach thing coming, and it's the same slave catcher who tried to capture her years before, but now he's much older, because I guess he even heard about that his slave who killed her baby is back alive. So he can't even believe it, so he came to see. But when Sete sees him, she tries to stab him with the ice pick, but the black women hold her down, and then Beloved screams, ah, and turns into a butterfly. Turns into a bunch of butterflies and fades away. And that's the end of Beloved. That's the end of not the movie, but the character. So yeah, what did you think about like the climax of all of that?
Yeah, definitely did not see that coming. Taking a little back, it was very nice to see Denver grow out. It was sort of like a coming of age moment, and she went to the community and helped. And all of these scenes made me really think about community a lot, because this is also something I've heard from you as well. Like, that's the one thing that's wrong with us black people. We don't stick up for each other. We don't, stand on code and things like that. But it's like, actually, yeah, like in the beginning, they ostracized Sete and Denver and that family. But when it was time to help, really, they were helping them. Mm-hmm. They were sending food and stuff. And the Council of Black Women was really cool. It was a little hilarious, but also like you can hear that some of the women said like, no mother wants that and stuff like that, So you can see some of the women were siding with Sete and some of them were still like judgmental.
Right.
And and then coming to the climax, I don't even know like what to say. It was so packed with everything. Mm-hmm. Sete was drowning in her guilt. Mm-hmm. And this sort of like gospel community sort of brings her back to life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we need that. Like, not our family can't bring us back sometimes. Our family can't help us. And we need that like outer help, outer voice. And Beloved coming out pregnant. Oh God, I don't even know what to think about that, because I don't know if her being pregnant was necessary. Maybe it was hinting at all of the possibilities if she didn't kill her lady, if she didn't kill her baby in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And the whole scene with the white man showing up and Sete like trying to stab him, I thought that was a hint of like both Sete like facing her demons and sort of accepting the fact that this whole thing happened because of slavery and because of white supremacy, and she shouldn't blame herself that much. Mm-hmm. But also it was sort of like this realization that I attacked the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I shouldn't have, killed my babies, but I should have like attacked those men.
Beautiful.
That's what I got from this scene.
Beautiful. I didn't think about that, but that's absolutely right. And that sort of like purged the whole situation. And it actually would have been more fulfilling for us as the audience if she did end up killing the white man. But what ends up happening is that the white man just looks at these black ladies screaming Jesus, and then this pregnant lady turning into butterflies and says, what in the nigger loving hell? Like, what just happened? But I think Beloved getting pregnant was done for two reasons. Number one, she wanted to show her mother, like, ha ha, I took your man, because Beloved didn't really come there to show love to her mother. She came there to hurt her mother because she wanted revenge for her mother taking her life. And then the second thing was it was a type of insurance, right? Because she's like, okay, you killed me before, right? But are you going to kill your own granddaughter too? Because think about this, like maybe Sete thought about, you know what, I'm sick of this. I could kill her and just be done with this and back to my old life. But then Beloved is going to curse her even more. Like, you're going to kill me and your granddaughter. How sick are you? And we're not in slavery anymore. So now you're really just doing this because you just really want to be free. Like, that's what I think that's why Beloved got pregnant and why she showed it so prominently. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I think like the first thing you said made more sense, for me at least. But yeah, definitely I can see that.
Yeah. But once again, the whole movie is weird because it's hella disturbing. This is just it just makes you ick. Like, everything just feels icky. Like, and another thing I gotta say, this movie has seasons in the background. The first season is winter. Then it goes into sort of spring when Paul D arrives. Then, summer scene is the big climax. And then basically the fall scene, autumn is like when, everything is wrapped up with Paul D coming back to Sete, trying to rekindle the romance. Denver goes off to the city and gets a job and, finds her boy toy too and stuff like that. Like the seasons in this film, I feel like tell the story because winter is usually the harshest part, right? And spring is when there's new life and summer is like when there's chaos, at least in this film, from what I've seen. Any
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah. No, I realized that as well because they showed like the leaves and, snow whenever the seasons are changing. And yeah, it was definitely sort of showing different chapters of, the character's life.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, we walk through the movie. At the end, Denver, she goes to the city. She sees Paul D. Paul D is like, how's your mama doing? She's like, he's fine. She's not doing well, but go see her, go talk to her. And Denver is like, trying to go back to school, learn, and just work her way up. You know what I mean? She still has a whole life to live. And, yeah. And, Paul D goes back to the house. Sete is there. They try to rekindle it. And it's sort of a happy ending, bittersweet ending. And yeah, the ghost is gone. The house is no longer haunted and they can start their lives over. So yeah. Any comments on the ending?
I really like the fact that Denver sort of like we see her growing out to be like this intellectual, hardworking woman. And it shows a little bit, I think, what this movie was trying to say because Sete was trying so hard not to pass her trauma into Denver. But somehow, also because of Beloved as well, Denver found out about a lot of things about her mom's past.
Mm-hmm.
And she sort of survived it. And she was okay. Yes, like she was hurt at times. And yes, she does carry some of that load. But she's able to find like hope and courage from those stories and from those experiences as well. And I also liked, how it's sort of like maybe a flashback of when Paul D was talking to that coworker, and coworker said like, just because we don't have chains, do you think we're not slaves? Mm-hmm. Something like that. And when, what was her name? I forgot. Denver. When Denver like meets with her boyfriend, and there's mm-hmm. like a bunch of white men walking in the street, and her boyfriend like takes her to the side, and then they tell them like, watch where you're going. Mm-hmm. So like you can still see Denver, struggling with racism and stuff like that in her life, but mm-hmm. she knows what she like stands up for. And yeah, that was like good as well, just to show everyone like, yeah, it's not over, mm-hmm. but we find ways to deal with it. Right.
Now, my only critique of this film is like, I feel like Sete and Beloved needed a better way to part, finally. Like, they didn't find peace, I feel like, cause, Beloved just poofing and turning into butterflies doesn't feel like Sete actually made peace with her daughter, especially when she had the chance to have her there. Like, yeah, she told her, I'm sorry, like I tried to do something nice for you, I tried to protect you, but it didn't feel like there was closure. You know what I mean? Because they ended on a bad note. And like you said, Acti, maybe the lesson of that scene is that Sete should have attacked the white man instead of killing her own, right? Maybe that was the message, but it didn't feel like that message was got across. Like you would have to think about it more, right? To get there.
Yeah, it sort of had a dark ending for Sethe because we don't see her getting better. Yeah, like Paul D returns to her and maybe she will heal with Paul D. We can just assume that.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the end, we see Sethe crying after Beloved, basically, and her baby.
Yeah. That's why
Yeah.
that's why I really think after reflection on this movie, this film is an anti-abortion film to the T. Because think about this. She had two girls in her hand. One of them she tried to kill but couldn't, and one of them she didn't. The one that she didn't kill is now about to be a successful little educated Missy Prissy. And the other one she did kill came back to haunt her life, ruin her relationship, ruin her home, make her lose her job, everything. Right? Like, this might sound crazy to you, Acti, because you live in a conservative Muslim country that doesn't ban abortion. But in America, like we were taught, especially like in Louisiana, Deep South, Bible Belt, like if you have an abortion, you will always be haunted by that baby. Like they use that type of language to us, right? They say you will never forget it. You will always be ashamed of yourself for it. And that's what I feel like a little bit this movie is kind of getting across. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe we don't have the same laws about abortion, but there's still like a lot of social stigma around abortion in Turkey as well. And yeah, like they say that in Turkey as well. Like if you abort your baby, you're killing it, so you go to hell.
Right, but they're not trying to change the laws about it, are they?
No, not that I know of right now. But I think that's because of there's just a lot of rape cases in Turkey as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about like the last scene.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like the last dialogue that we hear is like Sethe crying because she says something like, "I lost the best thing, I lost my best thing in the world."
Mm-hmm.
And then Paul D tells her like, "You are the best thing, Sethe."
Mm-hmm.
And Sethe says, "Me? Really? I am the best thing?" And then we hear this speech from Baby Suggs, the mother-in-law, and she says something like, love yourself, love your hearts, love your private parts, love your freedom, and, be happy about that, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was like a bit powerful, very powerful, because, yeah, like even though Sethe, a woman like Sethe, she went through a lot, she killed her own baby. But, she can still find things to be happy about
Mm-hmm.
because she is her. She's a black, person. She's a black woman. She overcame everything.
Right, like what's the point of being free if you don't love yourself?
Yeah.
Right? Now that doesn't say being in slavery is better if you love yourself, but like that's an essential part of making this freedom thing enjoyable and workable too. Now, like you said, actually, like the circumstances around Sete's life made it hard for her to enjoy freedom because she gave up so much for it. You get what I'm saying? But she sort of lost in the end. Like the main thing is like to be happy in this freedom thing, in this life thing. And it was hard for her to be happy after everything she gave up and went through to get there,
Yeah, it's sort of like she lost her child again for the second time.
Right.
But she was, she killed her daughter, but after she was able to be happy to an extent at least, or she was functioning in life at least. But after the second time, it was like she just lost everything.
Right. It just makes me think about this old saying, like, to get everything you ever want, you'll have to lose everything you have. Like, if you wanted to become a billionaire, Acti, you would have to sacrifice probably me, your health, your mental health, your time, your sleep, right, to make it to a billionaire, right? To get her freedom, she sacrificed everything she had to get everything she wanted. And because of that, she had to be reminded of the main core thing. Like, and that's why that baby Shug's thing is there at the end, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, very deep movie, very interesting. The more I talk about it, the more I hate it, low key. But watching it the first time, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed it. I just have like, now that you said it about like anti-abortion thing, I cannot unsee it. And it's kind of bothering me as well, but I'm just gonna overlook the fact that, you know, some people or the actor interpret it like that.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to, because I really liked this film when I first watched it, and I liked it more when we dissected like those important themes.
Mm.
It's just like very strong symbolism, very, very, very good acting. And yeah, I have to read the book of this movie, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna give my final score. You ready?
Go ahead.
I think I'm gonna give it an 8.
An 8. I'm giving it a 9, low key, because I feel like these sorts of black dramas are very, very, like, this is like a monumental piece in black cinema, low key, in my opinion. I feel like everybody who wants to take black American cinema seriously needs to look at this and analyze it through the lens of black psychological horror thriller. Or like, think of this as in the same vein as a film like, not 12 Years a Slave, but more like, Us, or more like Get Out, more like a black horror film, more like the mad black girl in her, creation. You know what I mean? Like, this is a black horror film that was ahead of its time. Done by a white director, honestly, but really this is black horror done excellent, right? Just as powerful as like the film Hair, right? Mm-hmm. I would even say the Jeffrey Dahmer Netflix show is black horror to some degree, right? And this is in that same vein of like scary shit that scares black people.
Yeah, trauma is coming alive for black people.
Yes. This is a trauma ride. And yeah.
If I'm gonna make a modern comparison, I forgot the movie's name, but there was a movie that we watched where like modern black people were taken back to slavery.
Antebellum.
Antebellum.
Antebellum with Janelle Monáe. Yeah, like Antebellum with Janelle Monáe. Like that type of black horror. This is one of those.
Yeah.
So I honestly give it a 9. My only problem is Thandiwe being told to act like she had Down syndrome and making that scary. Like I didn't like that. I didn't like that. But it's cool. It's cool.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm giving it an 8. I really love it, and my points were taken off because, I did think like some of the props were just it took me out of from the moment, and that's why. And also like the ending, I did wanted to see like Sethe happy, really, and it didn't give me that, and those are my 2 points.
I got you. Well, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this. Thanks for watching this. Subscribe to Cinema Crossroads on Spotify. Subscribe to Simon Hill Keeps a Trail, my YouTube channel. Stay tuned for more movie reviews. Send your suggestions my way. We're going to be covering a lot more films. We're marching on to episode 100, and we're also trying to do our Oscars this year. We're going to have several categories. Be sure to vote in them on the polls that we'll put out there. And let me know what y'all think, man. Y'all be easy out there and be blessed.